everyone. Welcome to another awesome day. In fact, it's the last awesome day of the week. Welcome. I'm Richard Carlton here, creator of FMTraining.tv. One of my close cohorts in crime, who I'm very pleased to be here with, is Jacob Taylor. Say hi, Jacob.
Hello.
We are broadcasting in high definition on Twitch, YouTube, and Discord. So you could pick the service that you like the best. Typically, Discord works the best for whatever reason. We are broadcasting live there. You can watch it there. You can also comment and hang out with all the cool kids. Today's topics will be pretty interesting. Before we dive into that, let's cover the upcoming broadcast schedule. I'm going to stick it over Jacob's face so we can see him there. So today is kind of a mouthful. It's piercing firewalls with a multi-machine configuration using Webdirect with proper demilitarization of security areas so Russians can't attack you. Is a very long word of that, but it's kind of mostly accurate. So we'll cover that today in great detail. In fact, the information we're giving you today does not exist anywhere, and I will cover that momentarily as well. Monday, Tuesday, we got Nick, day one, day two of next level let functions. I'm not sure what next level let is. Generally, Nick is next level in general. So that'll be Monday, Tuesday next week. And then, so Nick has got a pretty hairy week next week. And then the week after that, I think he's off, entirely, or has one day, then he's off for a week just because of scheduling. So we have a lot of really cool content stacked up by that. Margaret's working on the scheduling and getting that all wired in. So Wednesday, Thursday next week, some more Nick. We got horizontal action with pivot tables. So whatever horizontal action is, it sounds good, sounds questionable, maybe not safe for work. You have to have a quick censor button so I can block out the screen so you can't see what's actually going on. And then Friday next week, Jacob and I will be back for some open server Q&A, so you can bring your questions there. So that's the upcoming broadcast schedule. We greatly appreciate it, as always. We appreciate the support of the channel. Every day is a different topic. Today is a very technical FileMaker topic. It's a very important in a lot of ways for some people, and maybe not applicable to you. So maybe not for you. Maybe just get out your Friday beverage and call it early day. Just, get out the adult beverages and start banging away on that. It is Friday after all. For some of you, it's already Saturday, in which case you're already hung over from the previous night. So I can't help that. If you want to support the channel, we do appreciate it. Go to fmtraining.tv. The left button, the live button is right there. Is how you see the upcoming broadcast schedule. It's FileMaker running a website. It's really amazing. And so that's his live code right here, live data. Over here, you can check out our bundles. Instead of me saying, hey, would you like to be a Patreon member and give me free money? That would be great. What we do is we're saying, well, give us some money, but then what we're going to do is we're going to give you some super high value training, pre-recorded training on an annual subscription. It's really quite good. You get a lot of great stuff, including the certification training. If you want to be certified, you want to learn how to be certified, that's where you go and do that. So that is the complete bundle right there. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. So let's talk about how we got to where we are today. So Jacob Taylor, I'm going to do this from my perspective, Jacob, and then when I choke far enough along, you will kind of help corral the conversation. So we're gonna lay the background on this a little bit. So understand that, and this has been on the FileMaker certification test. If it's on the test, it's not more than one or two questions. Shh, I can't tell you that. That's a secret. That you can set up a FileMaker server, and they can have additional worker machines, in quotes, up to 5 that support it, providing content to people. And then, of course, you couple that with your generally an on-premise internet a company, an on-premise FileMaker server installation at a corporation. So say Ken runs the ballooning Millennium Association. They have a 5-story building. They're very busy because hot air ballooning is such a big deal. And they've got like 5 floors, and there's 50 people on each floor. And they have an on-premise FileMaker server, but they also have a lot of firewall action that's going on. And as a result of that action, they want the FileMaker server with multiple machines to work with their firewalls, right? That's kind of the idea. And so we got into this situation where we were trying to put some of the little worker machines outside some of the firewalls, some of them inside the firewalls, and the documentation was incomplete from Claris. It's been kind of this recurring theme that we've seen with Claris, where documentation, I think what happens when they hired the new people at Claris, that Clarice told me this, what happened was is that they Claris had some staff turnover, or they decided they didn't need people, and one of the persons they got rid of was Clarice's best friend, which is Mrs. Documents. And Mrs. Documents actually organizes all the documents for the developers. They fired her, she's gone, so there's no documentation. So how do we learn how stuff works? Well, what we do is we start bugging people at Claris. So what we ended up doing is we went over to, if I can find it somewhere, wherever is the preview, there's preview. We called the Rick. This is the Rick. This is Rick Kalman. He's the director of product management, which is kind of an interesting title at Claris. He really should be a vice president, way up the food chain. So this is the Rick, and not Richard. I'm Richard. That's the Rick. And Jacob said, hey, we've got this problem with documentation. We don't know how to do this. And so Rick had to actually lean on the people who had the documentation to provide it. And so they did that. And so today is a result of that. This, what we're showing you, is not documented anywhere. Okay, it doesn't exist. It only exists here in this video. So may not apply to you, but if it does apply to you, it's the only place you're going to find
It'll be
this.
super useful.
Super useful. So why don't you start framing the conversation on what we're up to? Okay.
Sure. So basically, so all right, we're going to step one step back. Actually, even Richard's introduction was good, but I want to cover one thing kind of specifically. So what we're talking about here is a multiple machine configuration, is what Claris usually calls it. So you're going to have a FileMaker server, which is your one machine over here, and then over here we can have one or more up to 5 what are called Webdirect workers. And I think they're moving away from the master and worker and type terminology, but they haven't come up with a new name for the Webdirect one, so we'll stick with that for the moment. So for these Webdirect machines, the only thing they do is Webdirect. That's it. FileMaker server does FMS. Sorry, hands in the right place. FileMaker server does FMS. It hosts your databases. It does all the access. If you're talking to it in Pro or Go, this is the machine that you're going to be talking to. But you can have up to 5 machines over here that their only purpose is Webdirect. One of the cool features, actually, so each of those Webdirect machines, again, up to 5, as certified by Claris, each of them can handle up to 100 concurrent, with enough hardware and stuff like that, up to 100 concurrent connections per Webdirect machine. Awesome. That means we can have up to 500 people. You have 5 worker machines and a FileMaker server, a 6th, the 6th machine over here, which is FileMaker server. So you could have 500 Webdirect people logged in at the same time. Wonderful. So this is the basics of what we're talking about. We're going to be looking at that kind of a machine setup. What we're going to introduce today, though, is basically disabling one of the features that is how that works currently. So right now, and if you've changed nothing about, let's say we're not talking about firewalls or any of that kind of concern that we're going to introduce today. You've just got your FileMaker server over here and your 5 Webdirect machines, and you've got 500 people logged in. In that situation, and if you've changed no settings or anything else, when someone comes to the Webdirect machine, right, they're going to go log in. They get kicked back to FileMaker server, and then they go back to a Webdirect machine. The purpose of that is it's a round robin. What Webdirect does, or what FileMaker server does, sorry, is it keeps track of how many clients are on each of the Webdirect machines, because it knows what their addresses are and that kind of stuff. It knows how many users are on each one. And so, let's say Bob comes in and he's going to be the 101st connection, and so he's connecting to worker 2, and then he comes over and worker 4 only has like 50 people on it, right? So we don't want him to stay on the one that he showed up to, because it's already full. We want to put him over on worker 4, and so he'll go back to FileMaker server, and FileMaker server will say, you should go to Webdirect worker 4, dunk, and he'll go back out, and that's where he'll access it from that point. And so he'll stay on 4. It won't change after that or something like that, unless he has to log back in again. So what we're demonstrating today is essentially disabling that kickback. So it's supposed to be a balancing, right, to make sure that you don't end up with any of the workers too overloaded, too many people on one, 150 on one of them and 50 on the other. No, it should be 100 on each, right? So that process is awesome and very important to a good Webdirect experience. However, as I just kind of said back and forth, it requires that web browser user, the Webdirect user, to be able to talk to the FileMaker server. So the demo that we're going to do today is to disable that back and forth, because the FileMaker server will be blocked. It's limited by a firewall that sits between.
Diagram time.
Yep, diagram time. I'll switch to it. So basically, we're going to have a firewall that sits between the FileMaker server and the Webdirect machines, so that the web browser that comes in, it's trying to do Webdirect, that's all, it can't talk to. There's no way, the packets can't get there. The data is not able to communicate to the FileMaker server at all, period. So how does that work, right? How do you have Webdirect over here, you have web browsers out here talking to it, and then you have your FileMaker server over here, but they can't. So that's what we're going to show today. I'm going to diagram time.
Yep.
So, and sorry, 2 moments. And then tell me if that looks good.
Give me one more.
Get the right.
Give me one more.
One zoom.
I want one more zoom.
One zoom.
Okay. So
no.
Yeah, scroll up because there you go. That's good. Most people should be able to see that. Okay. Actually, give me one more. Go ahead and give me one more, but just make sure you're scrolling.
We'll do one and then
scroll up. There we go. That's great.
How about let's do, I think that, yeah, perfect. That's everything.
Okay. So this is our FileMaker server over here?
That's your FileMaker server. Yep.
Okay. This is a network, and there's a network here. This is an internal company network. There's a firewall here, right? That's the wall, right?
Yep.
There's another firewall here. So this is the public facing. So in the world that we see a lot of you, we haven't talked about this too much in probably years, but this is what you have: a wall here, and there's this area in between, and it's called a DMZ, or a demilitarized zone. And what it is, it's like this wall here really blocks probably 99.9% of everything, and this wall here blocks, say, 85% of everything. And so the idea is that you can get through this firewall, talk to things that are here, but you really can't get past this firewall. I'm going to let it clear itself here, but you get the idea that this filters, most of it, or a big chunk of it, and this filters almost everything. And so if you are here and you're this person here, you're not allowed to talk all the way to the FileMaker server. Okay, port 5003 is blocked right here, right? It's dead. In fact, it might be dead over here. But the point is that 80 is probably open right here, or 443 is open right here, right? Yep. And that allows your browser here to talk to a web server here, which happens to be giving you Webdirect, right? Do I have that right? Correct, Jacob?
Essentially, yes.
Good. All right. So the problem is that this round robin system, when you're logging in, you basically want to be talking to this all the time, but before you can log on and talk to that, it's going to bounce you forward to here to decide which of the web workers you're going to go to, but you're not allowed to do this. And so this is a configuration issue that's not documented. So if you have a legit company network, Caltrans, Department of Transportation, California, I'm sure just about every major corporation on the planet that has at least 200 or 300 employees, a lot of basic companies, they just have one firewall and it's set for maximum and you're not allowed to get through. But more elaborate organizations will have a two-tier firewall system with this DMZ in the middle, right, Jacob? Once again, I'm just kind of painting with broad strokes. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So what a lot of really big organizations do. So all right. So small businesses or smaller businesses will say they'll have one big firewall on the outside essentially, but then everything inside the bubble can more or less talk to everything else. You might have some network segmentation or stuff like that, but within the context of, say, FileMaker Pro talking to a FileMaker server, or a web browser talking to Webdirect or something like that, especially on a single machine configuration, it'll be wide open basically. You can do limitations. You could, limit it to FileMaker Pros can talk to FileMaker server over port 5003, and this kind of stuff. You could lock it down like that, but essentially it's bidirectionally, it's wide open. What this setup lets you do, if you disable the round robin feature, is to have multiple layers that each have their own sets of rules. So what this right side, whoops, there's my mouse. What this right side wall is going to let us do is limit it so that the Webdirect workers are the only ones essentially that can talk to the FileMaker server. So you can think about it, if you put static IPs on all the Webdirect workers and you put a static IP on the FileMaker server, and then you make a rule that those two, they can talk back and forth, right? But if you're not one of those, we'll say in this diagram we have 2 workers and 1 server. So if you're not one of those 3 sets of IPs, you can't really talk back and forth, right? That's blocked at the network level. The packets just kind of so how do you get around that? Because we want to turn off the feature that requires us to talk to the FileMaker server, because it won't strictly speaking be necessary to do so. The only reason out of the box anyway that you have to talk to the FileMaker server in the first place is for the balancing, to balance the workers themselves. So if either you're handling that yourself or it doesn't matter, and so you're going to use this, as a network piercing feature, then it won't matter as much. It could still, obviously there's some implications to that, because if the load isn't being balanced, you may end up with 150 people on one worker and 50 on the other, or some similar issue like that. That's kind of left as an exercise for the user. But yeah, that's the general idea.
Let's talk about a couple questions here, right? Because there's some good questions here, and it's a broader topic. So the first one I want to deal with is that Ruben says a DMZ is without the left firewall, I think. No, to have a DMZ, you have to have 2 firewalls. There has to be an in-between area, okay? So otherwise, most companies have an inside the firewall, and then like if this didn't exist and this was just another server here, you have an inside the company and an outside the company. There's no in-between. The DMZ is literally the most modern DMZ that I can think of is between North and South Korea. It's probably a stretch of what, a half a mile or quarter mile.
Yes. So
and it's mined with explosives. So if you walk across it, you explode. Okay, I don't know how else to say it. It's really an inhospitable area, and you're not supposed to go across there unless you have specific permission. Right? That's the idea. Go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah. He is thinking about the feature called DMZ that is built into most residential routers. And I guess I have to explain that feature specifically. It is actually what Richard is talking about. They don't present it that way. The way that the feature is presented is a disabling of the firewall for an individual client inside the network. So he's thinking that removes the firewall, so you end up with one. In other words, the firewall covers only the other computers on the network, right? You've got a router in there, and there's like 5 computers, and one of the 5 has a full, the full fury of the internet hitting it or whatever. And that's kind of true, but not to get into it too far. It isn't. There's 2 firewalls there.
Yeah. So if you have a home one, it's one box. But it's providing you both of these features here, right? Does that make sense, right? That's kind of what they're doing. But normally in a corporate setting, they're going to have a dead. And here's the thing with this. Your IT people are going to be really religious Nazis about this. And I mean it kind of in a good way and also a bad way. Because what they could do, and one of you asked this question, I want to answer this, is that basically at the bottom of the day, let's just start with this infrastructure. So there's a this is your outside firewall, then you can get into this kind of DMZ kind of restricted area. You can still come in, and then pretty much you can't get through this one at all, 0. So this is the public area. This is your inside area. You can. I have had customers who took the FileMaker server and they parked it in here. You don't have to, you can park the servers wherever you want. They wanted the FileMaker server out here so you could come in with Pro, and they opened 5003 over here, for example, and you could come into here, but you couldn't. So 5003 was allowed through. You can see where, well, they don't measure it here, but they say 5003 here. They allow 5003 here, but then they block it here. So that way, in case someone compromised the FileMaker server, they couldn't get beyond this restricted area in here, if that makes sense, right? So I've seen that before. I shoot 3Com before they kind of got bought up or went out of business. I don't think they're around anymore, but 3Com had a network, and they took the FileMaker server and they stuck it out in this area right here, in this middle tier. And we ended up having one worker machine. They did the web stuff. It was a 2-machine config, but the server and the one worker were together in the DMZ. So understand that we're talking about kind of a fundamental architecture issue, as well as kind of the individual hack to fix this specific issue. So that's why we're making it educational.
And this is well more like network firewall stuff than actually FileMaker in this case. But
yes.
It's a thing that you can deliver to your clients with the FileMaker platform if you need to.
Or they already have the architecture, and you have to. In my case, it was always they had this already, and we had to kind of work within the constraints, right? So they say, well, you want to set up a FileMaker server, you can kiss our ass. Okay, well, where can we stick it? Well, okay, you're forcing us to do it. We're going to stick it in here. And then, of course, no one on the outside can get to it. They're like, well, we're not going to open a hole through this one and this one together. They wouldn't open a 5003 all the way. We'll take it, move it over here. So we'll open a 5003 here. It'll live in this kind of intermediate area, the DMZ, and then you can't, get all the way through, right? So it's almost like a little bit of a hostage negotiation with the IT people, because they don't want to open holes, because every time they open a hole, some hacker can try to exploit that hole, right? So the fewer holes in the firewall, the more firewall-y, more secure it is, right? The more firewall-y a firewall is, right? So, but yeah. Okay, cool. Next, so moving along.
Oregon D did ask one question right there, which I'm going to answer specifically. He asked, is Webdirect, so we were having a back and forth about what I mean by round robin, because most people only know that term from DNS, which is you put multiple entries in, and you're either the computer, the DNS system, something, you have multiple addresses, and then the traffic can go to any of them, and that's fine. And so you can, if you have like a billion people trying to connect to your thing, you put 5 entries in, only 250 million or 200 million.
Right.
Can't do math.
Right.
Hit each IP probably, right? And you can balance that. That's load balancing in that sense. What this is in a multiple Webdirect worker machine configuration, the FileMaker server will assist you in making sure the Webdirect workers themselves do not get overloaded. So if there's already 100 connections on one worker, it will begin kicking those people trying to log in, the new ones, to a different worker that has fewer things on it. I don't know if it's round robin or if it's 100% load balancing. It's some combo thereof. I'm sure there's a document, but it essentially makes sure that if one of them's full, it's going to kick them somewhere else. I think it actually does real load balancing, but it's based on the number of clients logged in.
So you just saw me draw there. So you can have up to 5 workers. Once again, that's been a test question before. And the only time that Clara sets this up for you to talk to the actual server is to get your assignment to which worker you're going to go to. If you only have one worker, then there's not much of an assignment. But in order for that to even work, you have to penetrate both firewalls, which is why this wouldn't work. Henceforth, we go, well, how the hell do we just use this without going all the way through here? Because the company won't open this up. If they don't open it up, this never connects. This fails. You give it the address, it always fails. You cannot talk to, even if it's outside the network, you can't, because you can't get to the server to get your round robin or load balancing assignment. You can never be direct, because once it's assigned, then you're just going to go back and forth with that worker machine, and the next person will be over here like this, right? You can't
You'll be logged in, tooling around on FMSP or whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah. So there you go. So 1 to 5 Webdirects. Okay, cool.
Yep.
And then there's only one database server. One database server.
One.
Yeah. Now, David Angel, real quick. I am not me personally. So I don't necessarily endorse this setup. Um, if I have a load issue, I would be inclined to go back to what Jesse Barnum has done, and when we did the session on enterprise clustering, is what they're doing is they're taking one database server with one copy of databases, and they have these worker machines that are trying to render the Webdirect layouts. I personally would rather have a single machine configuration, a beefy one, and then have a second FileMaker server and a third FileMaker server, and we had a demo with 5, and the data replicates. So you have 3 or 4 or 5 sets of databases, and then you can direct to people coming in. Once again, we covered that in that video to talk. So you, instead of having one really complex FileMaker server installation with 5 machines, say you have 5 different simple FileMaker server configurations, and the only thing you have to do to make that work is install the MirrorSync product and set the replication up, which we did it in pretty easy. It was pretty easily done, and but then you could put a server in different continents and different regions and different offices. It's when you start to have things to scale FileMaker past, say, 200 users at one time or something, you have to think about a strategy. The multiple worker machine is one strategy. The other strategy are complete FileMaker servers that have their own web publishing capability in there, right? Their own simple setups. That's what RCC would do. I wouldn't use this necessarily. We're doing this video because one of our customers said, this is what we want. And so off we go.
Yep.
So sorry about that.
And this is, yeah. And what you're also talking about is scaling FileMaker server specifically, like the database server component
Correct.
of it.
Yes.
Versus this presentation is scaling Webdirect, which is why you can,
it's just part of it.
Yeah, only Webdirect. You can sidecar multiple Webdirect workers off of this because, just to make up a silly example, you have 5 pro users that are your backend admin people or something like that, but like your clients are who were logging into this, and so you could have theoretically 500 of them logging into Webdirect at a time because they have some couple sets of layouts that they go into. This is scaling that part of the access. It will do nothing for FileMaker server. If you have 500 people logged into Webdirect, you will need beefy machines for each of those Webdirect workers, and the FileMaker server will need to be quite beefy as well, because that's 500 connections, right?
Yeah. So anyway, so there's 2 different ways of two different ways of kind of attacking the same issue. So, but this is dealing with, once again,
Correct,
your IT driven, policy driven, where you have a firewall here and a firewall here, and they won't let you drill the same hole. Like over here, it says the holes are 80 and 443. The holes are either one way or 2 way. They can be bi-directional, depends on how you set them up. But they're going to want more, that's what the whole thing about firewalls is, more restrictions, the better. The trick is when restrictions get in the way of business processes and usability by your employees is when you have a problem and they run into each other, right? So over here, you got the holes are 80 and 443. Over here, the holes are 80 and 443, so the same holes. But then over here, there's additional holes for 5003, 16,000, 16,001, 16,002. So they've opened additional holes here, right, between these, right? So anyway.
Yeah, and not to give anything away too much, but the list on the right side will be shortening in a future version of FileMaker.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Which
that'll
make your
soon,
that'll make your enterprise IT people. But you'll see that when it comes out. I'm just stubbing that in the video.
Well, and just real quick,
long.
so people don't freak out about this. Oh my God, you're going to be having. We're not talking about FileMaker 20. Please, everyone stop. No, it's just they're still doing their incremental rollout. So if we're on 19.4, what would be the next one called, right? And it would be the next incremental rollout, and everyone who guesses will get the answer correct. So they're just continuing that strategy right now, unless I get in trouble next week and they tell me something different. So we'll see. All right, cool. Questions. So the client connects to the URL that connects to one of the secondary machines, and then correct.
Shall I answer that by demonstrating it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go right here, and and you guys can log in on this. I'll give you the password. So there's a worker 1, there's a worker 2. It's the same address. But I gotta go to Webdirect, so we're gonna do this.
FMI/Webdirect. Okay.
Yep. And so here's one. I'll open both tabs here. I think I can log into both of them at the same time. Let me go worker 2. There you go. All right. These look pretty similar. Yeah. Worker 1, worker 2. Yep. So to log into either of these, it doesn't matter. I do not have to talk to the FileMaker server. So there, it's going to ask me. I'm going to say demo. I'm going to use our super secret password of password. Yes. Then it's going to tell me my password's breached because the password is password. And here's FMSP. Okay. So
that was on worker 1. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So,
so we are only talking on that diagram where we were on the left, and that's us, and we were talking just as worker 1, and there's worker 2.
Just this.
We opened 2 different windows. We opened a direct connection there, and then a connection to there. That's all we did. And then these things, to get the database, they can render the Webdirect parts, but to get the data and the layout and information, they each had to talk to the FileMaker server, which is hiding over here. So, all right,
and then I'm going to go to Dunk. So these are remote desktops to the 2 workers. Okay. You see my little window titles. We have Mwpe worker 1 and worker 2 in the background. So, and then to demonstrate how the FileMaker server is, cordoned off in its own area. So this is I'm just going to show this. I think we can reload this. Won't do anything. Yeah. Okay, cool. So this, so when you set up a Webdirect worker machine, this is Windows, of course, but there's a setting in the installer and you usually just click next a lot, but there's one option where you can say, I'm setting up a Webdirect worker instead of a full FileMaker server installation. Yeah. And so for that, it only installs the Webdirect stuff. You still need Java separate. Okay. We've talked about that before. Oh, interesting. Why is it blank? Really? It usually show. Oh, no. Oh, cool. Well, live demo. Hey, everybody. I don't know why that's blank, but cool.
It's working though.
So. Yeah, it is. That's why I'm like, why is it blank? Yeah, see, this one has all the stuff in it still.
Oh, okay, that one's in there. So what is?
This is worker 2. Anyway, I just wanted to show it. So
what is this? Is that the FileMaker server address?
That is the FileMaker server address, and that is a LAN IP inside. This is all inside of Amazon in this case, but it would be similar, if you had an internal network IP of some kind, and you said my FileMaker server's over there, shh, and the firewall says yes, the 2 Webdirect workers, they can talk back and forth with FileMaker server, but nobody else can.
Okay.
Shh. So, and then this is what it looks like: the admin console username and password. And so there's no SSL in the FileMaker server. It's the default one that comes with it. So I had to check our lovely override box, and it gives you a wonderful error message down here that says there's something horrifically wrong with the SSL, and you go, oh yeah, it's the default one. That's right.
It's not the real one.
And then check the box and hit add again, and then it'll give you the successfully connected. So I'm switching back to worker
David
1
Angel was asking about port 16,003.
No,
he's asking he just wants to know what is 16,003. Is that correct?
I don't know. I have no idea. 16,002 is the one that the workers actually use. 16,000 and 16,002 are the specific 2 that are needed for the workers, I believe. Sorry. He is referencing this right here because it is a weird port. 16,003 on a Webdirect worker on localhost is where if you want to call it that, the admin console, but it's not. It's the server deployment assistant. They have another name for it here for the workers. They do not use the same port as FileMaker server. FileMaker server localhost would be 16,001. So anyway, doesn't matter, because what you're going to do is click this link on your desktop and it's going to open to the right place. So
cool.
Anyway, so the second thing I wanted to show is that 10 dot whatever IP address I've got set up on remote desktop. I know this is a little awkward because it's like we're servering through the other server, We've got remote desktops chained into each other.
Okay, so back up. So this is worker one, and then what in here is or is it the whole window?
This is the FMS. It's the whole thing, yeah, but
okay, so we're looking at the FileMaker server at this point. Okay.
Yeah, you see my window here? I have
a yeah.
10 dot.
There we go.
That IP will look familiar here, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going through worker one, through the firewall, into the FileMaker server that's off in the corner, basically. And then these are, I just wanted to show this. This is the list of ports I have allowed. I know this is the Windows firewall, which is not the network one, but it's the same list basically. So that's the list that you absolutely need for this to be working correctly. Added myself as a contact. Oh, perfect. Hey, Ruben. Oh, he logged in as you logged into one of the workers. Perfect. So this is not interesting. This is just a FileMaker server. There's nothing. I've not done anything here. I do want to show you though. So we have 3 connections, and I bet one of those is Ruben. One of those is probably me as well. So we have 2. I think that one's me. So that must be Ruben. So we have 2 people connected. Here's our thing, right? And then this is a pro copy I have on that worker machine, actually, the worker one. Mm-hmm. There's a hidden copy of pro in the corner. So the one thing on the admin, I just want to demo this. The one thing on the admin console that will look interesting in all of this is because when you connect workers, it is now a multiple machine configuration and not a single machine configuration. And so the connectors tab, where you're used to seeing right? This probably looks a little different.
Yeah, it's a little more
so those are your 2. Yeah, these are your 2 addresses here. So there's your primary machine. That's me, right? That's the FileMaker server, and then you have your 2 worker machines over here. And again, you can have up to 5 of these, and that's it. So that's. Other than, I could go show you the Amazon configuration. I want to show you the setting that you have to change, though, to make this work. When you log into Webdirect, you don't go back and talk to, I bet I know why that failed, actually. Never mind. Anyway, you don't have to go talk back to the FileMaker server. So again, we are on the FileMaker server currently. I'm going to leave this little firewall thing up so we know that's what we're looking at. The one thing, there's one setting, So we're over here, and this is a similar path on Mac. You can do the same thing on a Mac. I don't know why you would, but it's possible. It's supported by Claris. So on Mac, you'd be on Library FileMaker server. The web publishing, the publishing engine. Let's go in here. You recognize this folder? Yes. So we go into web publishing. We go into publishing engine, and then I think it's conf. I just forgot it. Yeah.
Yep.
No, hold on, me. Make it go away. There it is, web publishing. Oh, see, I always miss it. It's the one above. It's not publishing engine conf. It's just web publishing conf. Sorry, that's what I always mess up. Thank you. This is why we're doing a live demo. So, because I always think it's the publishing engine, because that's where that's where I would assume it would be. If you go in this upper configuration directory right here, this file jwpc prefs, we're going to edit that. And you can see there's not too much in here. It's a very short file, 23 lines.
We're going to answer questions. We're going to let Jacob get through this part, and then we'll come back to questions. Ruben and David and Labo. Okay.
Yeah, we'll after we show this. So the setting is this one right here. It is called Mwpe Routing. And it, as you can see, it's no currently because we have it set up for this demo. It is yes out of the box. To do this, to make the change, you have to shut everything down, change this, and then turn it all back on again.
Okay.
So
this stops the
routing.
It stops the worker from bouncing you forward to the FileMaker server.
To the FileMaker server
for the routing assignment, right?
Yep. Yeah. You just sit on whatever worker you landed on.
Yes.
You could, if you needed, it makes it hard, right? Because if you needed to do load balancing of some kind in that, you've got this network configuration, you can't talk to the FileMaker server. You still need to do load balancing because we'll say you have up to over 100 users or something like that. You'd have to figure out some other way to do it. Maybe a home page that everybody goes to that, bounces them 50% of the time to one and 50% of the time to the other, or something like that. Something silly, but basically you lose that you lose the load balancing by doing this, which that's the point. But also, yeah, that has a side effect, which is you could theoretically end up with way too many people trying to log into the same worker. So
Right. Okay. So a couple questions here. So David Anderson says you could have Webdirect server only. Read what he says there. It's about 4 up. You could have Webdirect server only same machine than FileMaker server. I mean, you could have one worker or no workers, right? So you could have.
I don't know.
He just edited
So
it.
you can do. Yeah, I know. Oh,
in the same machine.
Can you edit the other one? Can you edit the question post? I do not understand the question.
Oh, the question says you could have Webdirect server in the same machine than the file. Yeah, by default, when you install FileMaker server, it's what we call a single machine configuration. All this is in one box on one installation on Windows or Linux.
It actually does the routing, this balancing. Mm-hmm. It does it in every config. If you had only a single worker, you have one FileMaker server and you have one Webdirect worker. You have one FileMaker server that has everything on it. It's actually doing that. It actually does do that. It's just it doesn't matter because there's only one worker to send anybody to.
Right. In the case of a single machine config, the machine is like where we've had to convert. Maybe we should go back and do another webinar on that. We talk about the processes that are on the server and how they interact. But FileMaker server, a single machine config, is a database engine, the core engine that does the stuff. Then you have a web publishing engine that publishes stuff, and you have an admin console that does stuff, right? And so what are we? So this is here we go.
This is the FileMaker server. Yep. Sorry, ignore the title. Yep. You see this? Here, let me get the blue thing so it stays. There you go. Perfect. So yeah, these are all our FileMaker server bits: server, helper, publishing engine, script engine, data API. This is
where does the web publishing come out of? It comes out of the WP right there, right?
Yep.
But on this one, we're not using it for Webdirect, correct?
Correct.
Because
the workers are
the workers have just this installed probably.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
It's you put a we can actually hold on. Let me minimize. We can show you. So if I go to, we are on the worker. Sorry.
We're back to the worker. Show
flipping windows. Process. It's got a single hard drive. Yep. Oh, let's do
the task manager.
Task manager. So I'm gonna go down. So you have
there you
two.
Go.
You see the two, the helper and the WPE, and that's it.
So the database engine, the core engine that does the finds and the sorts and the data and the caching and all that, not here. This is a worker. So it only has these two pieces, whereas the main FileMaker server has all the pieces, right? So
you see a bunch of the bits here, right? But if I go into database server, there's not too much going on. There isn't actually. Oh, you guys may not know this directory super well. There should be an FM server D. There is not one. There is the admin, because you need to be able to restart the worker stuff. That's the FMS admin command that we've seen on the command line. And then this is the custom web publishing, the helper thing that runs everything, and then WebD is data API related. So I don't even know if that needs to be in there, strictly speaking. But there is no FM server D in here because there's no FileMaker server installed properly, as you guys would think of it. So, and those are definitely not running.
Okay, so Michelle Gravel has a really great question. Welcome, Michelle, and Dennis on YouTube. They're on YouTube actually. And so Michelle says, how do these worker? Okay, so this is a really good question. It's an easy question. It's a good question. How do these worker machines synchronize? I'm going to say their data with the main FileMaker Pro server?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question.
So they have a live connection to their FileMaker server backend.
So the short answer, another way of answering is they don't synchronize. They don't synchronize. Bring up your diagram real quick. Okay, so let me walk through this. This is you. This is Michelle Gravel on a browser. Okay. Makes a request to, let's just say that we've made this modification so it doesn't do the round. Remember, you do the request here, then it says, oh, which one do you want? And maybe you end up with this one, and then you're interacting with it. We turn that off because we cannot allow to talk directly to FileMaker server. So Michelle, the question is is how does this synchronize with this? The question implies that there is a database here, right? A database and a database here, and they must be synchronized. It makes perfect sense. It doesn't work that way. That when you make a request here, I'm going to let the screen clear itself. You're going to make a request to say, show me this layout with this data on it. This is going to go, hey, I need to show the layout and the data. I already kind of know what the layout looks like because I've already loaded it, but I need to get the data, so I'm going to go over here. It goes here and gets the data live, brings it back. So there's this constant conversation going, and what it's doing is that it's feeding. I wish I could change colors here. You're talking just to this. Does that make sense? So you're making this conversation just like this, and it's like an interpreter. It's interpreting it for you. Like if you went to China and you don't speak Chinese, you need an interpreter. This is doing the interpretation for you, and it's a live conversation. It's not saved over here. There aren't a separate database for it to sync. If you want to get into that separate diagram where we'd have multiple FileMaker servers, then that's where we would use the mirror sync product for that, right? Different structure. This is a little bit on the deep end of the pool. I don't want to confuse people, but we following this kind of, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so when it's a single machine configuration, still on the question from Michelle Gravel. Mm-hmm. So when it's a single machine configuration, Richard, would you give me a box around the right side? This is one machine. Yep, just like that. Yeah. That is one computer. So your web browser comes in here and talks to this, which is not a separate computer. That's it. That's the only difference here. This is not a separate computer. It's all one server. So when you're just using Webdirect on a normal single machine configuration FileMaker server, we'll say, it's looking under its butt because it's right there. It's on the same machine.
Yeah, all these items here are all combined into a single machine. And I wish I could draw a picture. There's a layer. There's a database server, right? Handles that. You have your admin console, you have your web publishing engine. It's all on one box. It's what we call a single machine config. So in that situation, you talk to the web publishing engine. Oh, let me clear. It'll clear. Hang on, give it a second.
Okay. 2 seconds.
So here's your complete single machine config. And down at the bottom here is probably your web publishing engine, your double PE. I can't write that. You're going to make a request down here and then when it wants to talk to the database to get the information, it's going to make the request across the same computer, right? You're on the same computer. So it's still communicating and translating for you, but it's on the same machine as opposed to here we broke it out. Why do we break it out? Because it helps bring more CPUs, more RAM, more processors to the effort. Because breaking stuff out on different machines, this has 5 or 8 processors, this has 5 or 8, 10, this has 5 or 8. Suddenly you have 8 or 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 processors helping to do the job instead of one poor machine, which is, sucking wind. It's faster, right? So, right? It makes sense? Yes? Complete with sound effects.
Yep.
What happened? What secondary machine receives the first connection? But is from David Angel, bottom.
What secondary machine
receives the first client's request?
What do you mean before round robin? So in a multiple machine configuration with round robin enabled,
you'd probably you'd give people. I think he's asking about the link. You just. Any of them. We could give them the link to any of them, right? So
yeah, whichever one that you like bookmark in people's browsers.
Yeah, you're going to give them the link.
Yeah,
it could be on any of them.
You could give literally everybody worker 1.
Yeah,
but you have 5 workers, right? And then so if you have round robin, this distribution of load turned on, then they will go to worker 1. It's overloaded, right? Everyone's hitting that same machine. You get kicked back to FileMaker server. FileMaker server goes, oh Lord, worker 1 is overloaded. Let me send you over to worker 3. That one's doing great right now.
Right. Makes sense. So the problem is we have to turn this off because you're not allowed to have that conversation directly through.
Correct.
Right? You're not allowed.
Those are the 2 links. Thank you for posting that, Ruben. And if you guys want to play with it, you can. It's demo and
So we've disabled this. So this round robin thing. So when you hit this machine, you're just going to interact here, and it's not going to bounce you forward. Any forward communication it handles invisibly behind the scenes. You don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
Right? Invisibly, it's going to be going on with different color. You have another person here. He's going to go this one, right? Another person here. They might be on this one too, or whatever, right? So.
Yep. Yeah, and so we've disabled the round robining. So there's again, you can end up with way too many people. This is the situation in which you could end up with way too many people plugged into one of these Webdirect machines. The point of the load balancing is to alleviate that. So
yeah,
right. RCC is going to host a database that's going to be Webdirect only. We want all of our clients to come log in, and we're going to have a big live stream. So every day at 1 p.m. we're going to have a problem, right? And so we're going to have multiple workers set up, but we're only going to probably give them one bookmark. We're going to say, RCC web is our address, right? But there's going to be like 5 machines plugged into there. And so everyone will hit that one link that we give them because that's easy. It's memorable. You can bookmark it. You're good to go. But first time they log in, it's going to kick them back to FileMaker Server, and FileMaker Server is going to consider carefully which one of those doesn't have too much load on it. And then it's going to kick you back out to that worker. And so you'll have a great experience. It won't be any issue. Even if that landing page worker is totally overloaded, doesn't matter.
Right.
So.
So Ruben, so David Angel says, so you give each of the clients the IP of the Webdirect server they're going to use. Yeah, we give them not the IP, but the DNS. That's what Ruben said. You give them a DNS, domain.
Yeah.
RC, something at RCC. You guys always see that livestream.rc.
No, the selection, again, David Angel, again, the selection is a post selection. So you go to the login page, you go here. Yeah. Oh, it logged me out, of course.
Yeah.
So whatever, I'll be right here. When I log in, this kicks me back to in a normal situation. This would kick me back to FileMaker Server, and then from that point, I'd get kicked out to, say, worker 2 has less people on it. Then that's where I go. Yeah. So this landing page doesn't do anything. It's just this is actually just a static page, almost a static page.
Yeah. No automatic selection. Yeah, because we turned off the automatic selection. I mean, this gets back to the conversation with Jesse Barnum where he had the DNS, and the different complete servers, right, talking to each other.
I can if you want, I can turn the feature back on, and you all can experience it breaking horrifically.
Yeah, no, we don't want to do that. So to go back to the diagram real quick. So the whole conversation here is, so let's back up to how Rick got involved. Claris's whole system is dependent upon this person initially making everyone here making a generic request. Let's assume it goes to the first machine, and they get bounced forward to the FileMaker server for a determination. Once again, an assignment. They're going to be assigned a worker machine to use, assuming that there's more than one. If there's only one machine entirely with no workers, then it assigns it itself. If there's only one worker, it's going to assign you back to that one worker. If there's multiple workers, it will determine through its own logic which one is the least busy. So you go forward here, you get bounced here, you get assigned. It only happens once. You're assigned to worker 2, and as long as your session is live with FileMaker in Webdirect, you will continue to interact with that person only. Okay, it's very important. The problem is that when you get into this big organization infrastructure, they like to put the firewall on here, and they put the firewall on here, and you can't do this assignment thing over here. The assignment has to handle some other way. This is not allowed to have that conversation. So it would break because this would forward here, it would be blocked, and the whole thing doesn't work. So Clara said, hey, this works, except it doesn't. And we said, how do we turn this off and make this work? And they said, oh, there's that little configuration that we showed you a second ago. That's how you do it. It's not in the documentation. Not in the documentation. So
yeah, and that's why we're demoing it, because let's see, we'll flip this. This is the FileMaker server. I'm going to announce that so we know where we are at. And so you come in, you edit this file, you pull it down so you can see where the path is. FileMaker server, web publishing conf, and then jwpc_prefs.xml. And then you can change this parameter, specifically Mwpe routing, to no. It's yes out of the box. Yes is FileMaker server, assign me a worker. So.
Yeah, I think it'd be ideal if they'd documented it, but if they were perfect and document everything, then I would have no videos to make, right? Although
and
it's still a good conversation. I mean, this is
yeah.
it. I think everyone's learning, right? Are we all learning from this? At least.
And to bring it back up, like I had said previously that this diagram was wrong because out of the box it's wrong. It's true actually, but and this was a discussion Richard and I were having before stream about what is documented true about the product, like what's possible versus like what it does out of the box.
So this is possible. This diagram indicates what is possible. Okay.
Yeah.
Out of the box, it won't do this.
Yeah.
In order to do this,
it's an accurate diagram.
Yes.
If you turn the routing off.
Yeah. If you turn off the load balancing part of it.
Yep.
This is really interesting stuff. I haven't worked too much in big corporate IT groups trying to get stuff set up. Most of my senior engineers do that now, but I used to remember this used to be such a giant pain in the ass because you shouldn't be using FileMaker because FileMaker is some pilot software that no one trusts. That's and it's not Oracle or it's not Microsoft. It's and then you get past that, then they're like, well, we're going to set up these firewalls and you're not allowed to, and they would always park your database server over here so out in the public, no one could get to it. It's like, well, how do we fix that? And then there's a lot of meetings. They don't want to do it. Then the boss of the marketing department has to yell at the VP of IT, and then we're going to have a meeting and get this figured out. And, because it's not up to you. At the end of the day, I'm educating all of you, but none of this will be up to you. We're just simply telling you how to configure it. Someone's going to put a gun to your head, metaphorically, and tell you to do this, and you have to know what to do. Okay. Yeah. But you're not going to be choosing this and where to put the boxes at. Never have I ever been given an IT department say, hey, how do you think we ought to set this up? They're going to come to you. Here's a picture. This is you. Okay. This is Jacob. And this is the IT department with a little gun, right? And they're sticking to Jacob's head, right? Right. And they say, do it. Make it work. And you're like, what the f-? Right? And that's actually how this happens in real life.
And actually how people show up to me is the IT department has already broken their FileMaker server, and the client is screaming, not at IT because they have no power over IT. They're screaming at me to come help them fix it because they can't do something.
What are you doing? You find something?
Testing something. Yeah, it's doing something interesting. If you noticed, it sent me to worker 1.
Mm-hmm.
When I went, and those aren't related, so I think, yeah, why is it doing that? Ooh.
Okay, don't confuse
so this. Yeah, anyway. My browser's misbehaving.
Yeah, so in an ideal world, though, to be honest with you, this wouldn't be a problem because Claris would make the request through a proper port, so the determination could still be made. But somewhere along the line, they didn't want to do that. So, yeah. But
you'd basically just have it so that the exact same information could be exchanged, but the worker itself would go talk to the primary and say, hey, which worker, I have a new user logging in, which worker should I send them to? And then the FileMaker server can reply back and say, oh yeah, this one's good. And then if that's the same machine, then hey, you're already there. Fantastic. We'll just keep going. But if you need to go somewhere else, you can just redirect them or something like that. I don't know. That would be cool.
That's all I've got for now. What time is it? Oh, it's 4 after the hour. Okay, we're done then. It's Friday. Anyone have a drink? David says, could you place the second machines inside the LAN? Okay, so you could put these in here, which is what most so then you get rid of the firewall. They're all in one area. Yeah, you could totally do that. And then you don't have to worry about this issue at all. This issue goes away. This issue totally goes away, right?
Yeah.
If
you do Webdirect workers and everybody's inside the super lockdown bubble, then it doesn't matter. That's this specific client that brought this request out in the first place. There are actually a bunch of pro users that are on the FileMaker server inside the bubble on the right side. Because that's who actually uses the database. They were trying to get Webdirect set up through their company's obnoxious firewalls, because they're not FileMaker users. They're not from the same department. They're not even actually in the same country, ironically, that would like to have a read-only view into this database because the data set is valuable. And it's like currently it's inside FileMaker, which makes it siloed off from the rest of the organization. And that is a political decision of FileMaker being shoved in the corner because enterprise IT doesn't want to deal with it, not can the tech do it, right? So this particular department gets their own little, the client always calls it their VPN, but it's their own little network bubble. They all operate inside of it. Yeah. And so Pro works great inside of that. They have no problems at all. There's no usage issues at all, but they don't use Webdirect because they're inside the bubble. They don't need to. They get, obviously, if you can use Pro, do it. But they would like to be able to provide some of this data set to other people, still within the organization, within the company, but at other branches around the world. So.
All right, so Jim Watts says, I'm going to paste this in there. I'm not sure I'm totally following what Jim said, but I'm going to post this for Jim in the Discord thread. Okay, well, getting FileMaker is not fit for purpose for our contractors all the time with them having zero FileMaker knowledge.
Oh, yeah, IT contractors, probably.
Oh, yeah, IT contractor. Okay.
Yep.
I wasn't sure what contractor.
If he's talking about IT contractors or, you've got an MSP or something like that, none of them have ever heard of FileMaker for the most part. And if this is why I'm like, Richard knows I've requested a few things of Claris recently in their testing program, features for the FileMaker server that make it behave more like what enterprise IT people, or even not enterprise, but like MSP, Windows Server admin people, more like what they're expecting it to behave like. Yeah. Because if it does that, if it generally works the way that people expect it to, it doesn't matter if it's faked. that actually doesn't matter at all. As long as it pulls it off, the mask is close enough, then they will be able to deal with FileMaker servers, and there will be much less internal opposition inside of IT departments to dealing with it, because the server software is pretty secured, all this stuff, but it's a small mountain to climb of weird specific to this software knowledge. And
it's a small mountain to climb for weird specific Claris knowledge. Wow, I'm writing that down. It's a small mountain to climb for weird specific Claris knowledge. Yes.
Yeah, and enterprise IT people, they want everything to behave the same way always, because they have like 12 things that they do all the time, and they want to be able to do it 12,000 times a day. And if you have to remember very persnickety specific steps for how to do particular processes with this one piece of software, there ends up being the person who does that rather than anybody in the IT department can do it. And IT organizations, I can't recommend this as a policy, but it's just the truth. They tend to go off of standardization and replaceability of the employees. And so because anybody with a Windows server certificate or whatever is like good enough to do the job type thing, that's an organizational decision to make. That's fine. But it means that there ends up being internal opposition to things like FileMaker because it's weird. People have to know other stuff. So, and there's no, unless they're a FileMaker certified developer, which, they're not going to hire for that. Not for this anyway. You get an IT person that's also a certified developer. Like what? That's not, in a big organization, that's not a normal thing to hire for. Somebody who's actually crossed like that. So
Lynn says, so if you set the prefs to no for the round robin, the worker can still talk to the firewall and get the data from FileMaker server. Yes. It's just that if everyone goes to the same, if you have 5 workers and everyone goes to worker 1, then no one's going to use worker 2, 3, 4, or 5. They're all going to go to 1 and just stay on 1. With the round robin turned on, which won't work with this setup, it just doesn't work at all. But if you got rid of this firewall and you had 1 network here, then the round robin would work and it would bounce people to whichever one. So if you have a single firewall on the outside and they get through, then just leave this on, because then it'll automatically, redirect. Once again, you have to ask yourself, everyone's interested in this, but if you're having scalability issues in the first place, Are you having Webdirect scalability issues, or is it pro users and Go users too? If that's the case, then forget this nonsense. Have a complete single FileMaker server. Have a second complete FileMaker server. Have a third or fourth complete FileMaker server. And then these things can replicate automatically using MirrorSync, which to me is a vastly simpler solution. But it requires the purchase of a third-party product. So anyway.
Yep.
But that's Jesse Barnum, and he's a good guy, and it's very, I give him my money, so there you go. Anyway.
Yeah, our demo for that, the enterprise MirrorSync thing, we had one on 3 or 4 continents, I think, and they were all right.
5.
They're all synced up.
Five.
There you go.
And including in Mumbai, India, which was literally the 330 millisecond delay. It was slow as from here, but it replicated there just fine because they're all replicating around. So it just bad solution.
And so then what you do is you do this balancing at the DNS level.
Yes, and we covered that. We covered that.
Yep. You pretend there's one server, but there's actually 5 under the hood, and then you're syncing behind the scenes.
And the DNS, what it does, it finds the one with the lowest milliseconds to you, and it directs you there. It's really cool.
Your pro goes and logs in.
We'll get Jesse back for that. We'll get Jesse back, and what we'll do is what I want to do is get a screen.
He'll have some updates at some point. We could have him. He says buzz for Jesse. No, I said he'll have some updates on that at some point, I think.
Yeah, he's working on stuff. That's good. So
I know he's been coding up a storm lately. So
yeah, he's working on his safety net product, which is a good product. So anyway. All right, cool. Well, that's all I got for now. Next week will be an action-packed week as well. I will be back on Friday. Me and Clarice have an appointment in the principal's office in Sunnyvale. They moved to Sunnyvale. Clarice, so me and Clarice will be there next week. All right, principal's office. Yeah, no, hang on. Here we go. There we go. That actually is very accurate. Here we go. There we go. That's me. Principal's office now, because Mr. Hat, Mr. Stick. I don't know what they call him, Mr. Hat, but with a stick. Mr. Hat ran off. That's a screwed up. That show is so screwed up. All right, cool. That's it, folks. See you tomorrow or Monday. See you Monday. Of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir.